رحبوا معي من فضلكم بجيم كويك الرئيس التنفيذي لشركة كويك ليرنينج ومؤسس شركة سوبر هيرو يو.
Please welcome on stage the CEO of Kwik Learning and the founder of Superhero U, Jim Kwik.
So I am so honored to be here today with you. This is one of my very favorite places to visit, and I am going to share with you tips and strategies to be able to master the most important asset that you have, which is your mind. How many people came here today like to have like a super mind? Well, you're in the right place. How many people came here today like to have a super memory? How many people forgot why you came here today? Have you ever done that? Have you ever walked into a room of your own home and then just forgot why you went there? Does anyone feel absent-minded, like senior moments are coming way too early? Like maybe you're taking a shower and you can't remember if you shampooed your hair yet, and you end up doing it twice? Does anybody here misplace things, like your wallet, your purse, your cell phone, your car keys, or if not your car keys, something larger like your car? You see the people in the parking lot using their car alarms like GPS? And how about names? How many people here have trouble remembering people's names? You meet them, and then as soon as the handshake breaks, the name just falls right through the floor, and you wonder where it just went. Or if it's not a short-term problem, it's a long-term problem. You're out in your day, somebody taps you on your shoulder, you turn around, you see somebody you recognize, but for the life of you, you don't remember what? You don't know who they are, right? And what makes it worse is when that person has the nerve to remember your name, right? Or somebody walks in and you have to introduce two people together. Like, that's a challenge, right? And so I believe two of the most costly words to your life, to your business, are I forgot. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that conversation. I forgot that meeting. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that person's name, right? And so what I want to do in this session is really jumpstart your brain. I had an interview right before this. They asked me, what's the one thing you wish people did more that would be the biggest attribute, the biggest movement to their success? And I looked at the person, the interviewer, and I said, the ability to show up. Because most people don't show up. And I really appreciate you in this room because you showed up, right? And you showed up, and because of that, how many of you had to travel to be here? Wow. And pay to be here, right? And so you give of your time, you travel, you give of also some of your tuition to be here. I want to make this, I really respect that because most people don't do that. Right? Most people don't, because most people are not here, right? So you're special in that, and I say this because my commitment to you over the next 60 minutes is I want this session to be worth it for you, alone. Meaning that you felt after this 60 minutes, you got so much value, it was worth your time, your travel, and your tuition just to come to this session, all right? How many people are ready for an experience like that? And I say this because, not because I'm so great, is because we could do this together and create something really, really valuable. That what we do doesn't just stop here, that there's a big ripple effect. And so I have no slides, and I have nothing prepared. And you're like, okay, this is different. What I want to do is I want to help you with the biggest challenges you have when it comes to your mind. So do we have mics? Raise your hand. Why are you here? If I was a genie and I could help fix one thing for you, I want to do that here. Raise your hand, introduce yourself, and tell me what would make this absolutely unforgettable for you. The mic's on.
Hello.
Hi.
I follow you in Mind Valley and I saw your courses before. I have a problem that I always get lost, my friend. Even this Google is not supporting me. Even Google Map is not supporting. So I go to a place and Allah yani knows how long it takes to reach there. So I have the location and names.
The what's one?
The locations that to reach a place,
Mm-hmm.
I use GPS, but also I get lost. So I have this problem. Second, the names.
Names.
I am a coach, and sometimes my student came and talked to me, but I remember the face. The names, I can't.
How many of you are much better with faces than you are with names? You go to somebody and say, I remember your face, but I forgot your name. You never go to somebody and say the opposite. You never go to someone and say, I remember your name, but I forgot your face. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. I'll absolutely cover that. Thank you. Would that be valuable if I taught you how to remember people's names? Raise your hand. Great. So we'll cover that. We're building the curriculum together. So just raise your hand. Can we pass the mic to... Where's the mic? Who has a mic? Just ask your question. Just pass the mic to anybody here raising their hand. Anybody? Oh. Yep.
Hi. So my challenge is reading faster.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to read faster. I read a lot, but I feel I'm slow. And the second is distraction. I get distracted very quickly.
Okay.
So focus.
And do you also get distracted when you're reading?
Yes.
So it's like two things even coming together.
Yes.
How many of you ever read a page in a book, got to the end, and just forgot what you just read? And your mind wanders. You go back and you reread it, and you still don't know what you just read, right? And that's a challenge. So I'll cover how many of you would like me to teach you how to read faster? How many of you have books on your shelf you haven't read yet? Look around. You're not alone. This is like a support group. You have books on your shelf you haven't read yet. It becomes shelf help, not self-help, right? We'll cover that. Anything else that would make this a complete win? Just, it's hard to see a little bit with the lights. Just pass the mic over on this side.
Hi, me.
Yes.
Just on the side. I would love to connect more with my children, and I really struggle with movies. And it seems like I've just watched it and I forget it just after 5 minutes, special like superhero stuff. And
Especially superhero stuff?
yes.
Okay.
And I would love, really, I think I do believe it's important that I know what they're talking about, but I really struggle.
Okay. How many of you would just, whether it's movies or anything else, just like to have a better memory? You know, I believe really that memory makes money. And I don't just mean financially, I think it makes everything better. Because in today's economy, knowledge is not only power, knowledge is profit, right? The faster you can learn, the faster you can earn. Anything else? Where's the microphone on this side here?
Hi, just want to maximize the power of my brain.
Maximize.
Anything I'm taking in, whether it's art, whether it's literature, whether it's this talk right here, how can I absorb and retain the most of it?
How many of you would like to maximize the power of your brain? All right, so we're definitely going to cover that also as well. All right, so how many of you, if we covered everything here, that's all for the mics. How many of you would feel like that if we covered how to remember names, if we showed you how to read faster and remember more, if we able to help you remember things that you watched or heard, and if we helped you to maximize the power of your incredible brain, how many of you feel like that this would be incredibly worth it? Yes? Awesome. Now, in order to learn this, I believe in role modeling. How many of you know what role modeling is? I believe that genius, write this down, genius leaves clues. Genius leaves clues. That if somebody is extraordinary at something, you could see somebody do something extraordinary, say, that's really amazing, and then walk away. Or if somebody does something amazing, you could say, that person did something amazing. How did they do it? Right? One of the reasons why, and just because I want to cover all the curriculum, I do those demonstrations. If you see me at different events or on video, where I'll memorize like 100 people's names in an audience, or an audience will give me 100 words or 100 numbers, and I'll memorize them forwards and backwards. You can see me doing this on, if you go to my Instagram, on the highlights, some of these demonstrations. I do this, and I tell people I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's possible. Because the truth is, you could do it too. Right? You could be able to remember people's names. You could be able to learn that language. You could be able to give that speech without any notes or anything like that. It's just we were not taught. And if anything, we were taught a lie that somehow your memory, your intelligence, your reading ability is somehow fixed like your shoe size. But here's the exciting news. We've discovered more about the human brain, more in the past 10 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. And it's exciting because we found that we have grossly underestimating our own capabilities. That we could do extraordinary things, we're just not taught how to do it because school was a great place to learn what to learn, math, history, science, Spanish, but not a lot of classes on how to learn, right? School taught us what to learn, what to think, what to remember, but not how to learn, how to think, and how to remember. All right? And I know this because a lot of you know. How many of you listened to my podcasts or have seen one of my videos before? Wow, amazing. So our podcast, which is at that website, is free. There's no advertising. There's no sponsorships. It's just literally tactics on how to do these things. And how many of you listen to podcasts in general? So you could get on. That's amazing. This is a very special group because most people don't invest in themselves. But I believe that if you want your business to grow or you want your brand to grow, you need your brain to grow, right? Because this controls what? Everything. But the problem is it doesn't come with an owner's manual. And I want to show you how your brain really works, all right? Now, going back to role modeling, if you're going to role model the fastest learners, who are the fastest learners on the planet? Kids, right? I did this to a group of 10,000 people. Translated, all these different languages. I said, who are the fastest learners on the planet? This whole table yelled out, pygmies. And if you know, please tell me why, because I don't know why they're such fast learners. But children are very fast learners. Now, why do you think that is? Their brains are like sponges, right? They have lots of questions, and they know they don't know something. But sometimes adults, we don't learn faster because we feel like we know it. Our cup is full. And that's why it's important to have that beginner's mind, right? But another reason why kids learn so fast is they play. You ever notice that? They're willing to make mistakes. They don't mind looking foolish, and then they learn faster because of it. If you look at a child learning how to, now raise your hand again, because I wasn't in the room. How many people here have children? Raise your hand. How many people were children? Raise your hand. So you know how to play, and somebody told me recently, like when I was talking about this, like, no, I stopped playing because I grew older. I matured. And I was like, no, you grew older because you stopped playing. You see the difference? And so how many of you are willing to play to learn this really, really fast? All right, stand up, let's prove it. Stand up. What I want you to do is I want you to find somebody you do not know and introduce yourself. Go around, find somebody you do not yet know, and introduce yourself. Go. Raise your hand if you need a partner. Raise your hand if you need a partner. All right, repeat after me. Shh. Repeat after me. Shh. All right, excellent. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play a game that's going to help really jumpstart our brains. Because I'm all about jumpstarting your brains. Stand up. And what I want you to do with you and your partner is we're going to play a game that you've played before. How many of you have played this game, rock, paper, scissors? Raise your hand. Does everybody know how to play that? Does anyone not know how to play rock, paper, scissors? Okay, so what we're going to do is this. You with your partner are going to count to 3. You're going to go 1, 2, 3. When you say 3, you're going to put either rock, go everyone do this, rock, paper, scissors. All right? Now here's the thing. Rock beats what? Scissors. Scissors beats what? Paper. And paper beats what? Rock. Do you see that? Now, here's the thing that makes people learn faster. It's encouraging other people. Like, think about it. Encouragement is giving courage to somebody else, right? And I feel like that if we supported each other, what would light up this area is everybody here supporting each other more. Do you see that? I think we all need somebody that encourages us, that challenges us, that's there to be able to support us. How many of you have that person in your life? Now, if you don't have that person, then be that person for somebody else. And especially be that person for you, right? Part of learning faster is just owning yourself and loving yourself. Like, we have to fall back in love with the person in the mirror who's been through so much but is still standing. Do you know what I mean? We have to be so in love with that person in the mirror that we teach everybody around us how we need to be loved. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is be a little playful here, is we're going to play rock, paper, scissors. And the person that wins just once, 1, 2, 3, raises their hand. All right, so when you win, everybody raise your hand. And what I'm going to ask you to do is find somebody who is also raising their hand. They won theirs, and then you're going to find them and do rock, paper, scissors with them. Now, what does the person who didn't win do? They are going to cheer. The person that didn't win is going to cheer their new friend on. All right, they're going to cheer. Now, what's the sound and motion? What do you do when you cheer somebody on? Go. No, what do you do when you really cheer somebody? That's the sound and the motion you're going to do. And then you're going to keep following that person around, and with that, and you're always going to keep on following, and you keep on cheering the person that's winning, all right? And then we're going to get to just, when we're done, 2 people left. It's going to keep on going. And I'm going to ask those 2 to come on stage, and we're going to have a big rock, paper, scissors. And half the room is going to cheer for this person, half the room is going to cheer for this person, all right? And the reason we want to do this is many of us have a fear of success. You're not feeling failure. You're not fearing failure. You're fearing you being the next level. Does that make sense? Because you're afraid at some level that you're going to be judged. You're afraid at some level that if you're successful, people aren't going to like you as much. So we're going to dispel that by cheering the person on, all right? And you're going to feel that also because you're going to give it. And what you give, you feel, all right? So face your partner. Remember the rules. You're going to with them. Not yet, not yet. In a moment, not yet. Shh. In a moment, you're going to count to 3. You're going to do it. Remember, the winner does what? Show me. Raises their hand, finds somebody else. The person who didn't win cheers that person on. Ready? Go. Let's hear some cheering. Cheering, go. Find somebody else that's raising their hand. Go. Raise your hand. Find that other person. Quickly, find somebody else raising their hand. Go, go, go. Move around, move around. Get out in the aisles, move around. Raise your hand high. Find somebody else. Raise your hand high. Go. Really cheer for them. Really cheer. Go. Raise your hand high. Move around. Go, go, go. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Raise your hand high, right over here. Over here. Who's still in? Right here, right behind you, right behind you. Raise your hand. Who's still in it? Find somebody else. Who's still in it? Raise your hand. Wait, raise your hand. Go. Wait, raise your hand. Who's still in it? Raise your hand high. Right here, these two behind you. Go. All right, the winners come here. Wait. Come up on stage. Come up here. Wait, one over here. How many of you are cheering for? Raise. All right, ready? I'm going to count it off.
1, 2, 3, and go, yeah?
Yes. 1, 2, 3. Let's have a hand for the winner.
Thank you.
All right. Have a seat. Everyone have a seat. This is what I want you to write down. I want you to write this down. All learning is state dependent. Write this down. All learning is state dependent. The fastest learners start with how they feel. Now, by the way, who is in control of how you feel? You are, right? You are in control of how you feel. How do you change the way you feel? How do you change it? What's one way? You move around, exercise. Like, sit the way you'd be sitting if you're really interested in what I was saying. You're totally fascinated. Now, why do you even have to move? But here's the thing, your physiology affects your psychology. Is that true? How you move changes the way you feel. So here's the key to long-term memory. Go like this, say what I do and do what I do. Information, one more time. Information combined with emotion becomes a long-term memory. One more time. Information combined with emotion becomes a long-term memory. You remember how things make you feel, and that's why you remember it. How many of you could listen to a song and it could take you back to when you were a teenager immediately? Look around. How many of you, it's a fragrance? You could smell something and take you back to when you're a child. How many of you, it's a food? A certain food, if you take it, it just takes you back to when you were little, all right? Because information by itself is forgettable, but information you combine with emotion becomes unforgettable. Do you feel that? And so the goal is, all learning is state dependent, is to control how you feel. Because this is what you want to be. You want to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. The fastest learners, the highest achievers, are more thermostats, not thermometer. Now, what's a thermometer do? What's its function? Yeah, it reacts to the environment. It just tells you what the environment is doing, right? It just reacts. But what's a thermostat? Right, it creates the environment. It sets a temperature, what happens in the environment. It rises to be able to meet that. And as entrepreneurs, that's your job, is to set a goal, set a vision on your thermostat, and then make the environment fit that, right? Take the invisible and make it visible. That's the goal, is to take what's in your mind and make it what everyone else sees. But the goal, though, is you have to believe it. That's the key, right? You have to write this down. You have to visualize what you want most. Visualize it, see it, feel it, believe in it, and then work daily for it. That's the success formula. You have to see it. All entrepreneurs, everybody who creates big change, they see it, they feel it, they hear it, They believe in it, and then they work daily for it. That's the goal. And the thing is, the daily, that's the hard part, right? It's not just the law of attraction, seeing it, it's the law of action, right? You can't have attraction without action. And so you need to be able to take it from your head to your heart to your hands. That's this formula. It goes from your head to your heart to your hands. But it always comes back to the feeling that you feel, right? Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you say, they'll forget what you did, they'll always remember what? How you made them feel. And that's the goal. Even in business, you know this, your customers do not buy logically. They buy what? Emotionally. Because we are not logical, we are biological. When you think about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, these positive endorphins, we are this chemical soup, and it goes from our head to our heart to our hands. How many of you procrastinate and put things off? Raise your hand high. You're not acting with your hands. How many of you have a vision in your head though? So you see it here in your head, but you're not acting with your hands? Check in with the second H, which is your heart. All right? The key to a great memory are three things. Three things build your memory. I want you to remember mom. Remember your mom. And I'm going to use an acronym here. M-O-M. Let's take remembering names. Let's talk about this. Raise your hand if you are not great at remembering names yet. Raise your hand high. Most people, right? But let's say there was a suitcase here of just an absurd amount of money. And it's yours. It's yours to do whatever you want with. Your favorite charity, anything. If you just remember the name of the next person you meet in this room. Raise your hand if you're certain you're going to remember that person's name. Raise your hand high. Now, how come you're all memory experts all of a sudden? Because the truth is, I want to be your coach. And a coach doesn't tell you what you want to hear. A coach, is it okay that I push you a little bit? And part of me pushing you is calling you on your BS. Right? Because you can remember names, but you have this BS. BS stands for belief system, right? You have this belief system that I'm not good at remembering names. And here's the thing, your brain is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet, because you program your supercomputer not to. I want to say this and just really take this to heart. If you truly understood how powerful your mind was and is, you wouldn't say, think, or feel something you didn't want to be true. I'm going to say that again. If you truly understood how powerful your mind is, you wouldn't say, think, or feel something you didn't want to be true. Now, that's not to say that you have one negative thought and it ruins your life any more than eating that donut, but it's the consistency, right? So you have to check those negative thoughts. My friend Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a top brain doctor, says that kill the ants. When you kill ants, your life gets better, your brain gets better. ANTS stands for automatic negative thoughts. How many of you struggle with that negative self-talk in your mind? And one of the ways to be able to reduce it is just to be aware that you have it and check yourself, right? You say to yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, then put the word yet at the end, right? I'm not great at remembering names yet. I don't have a great memory yet, and it opens up the possibility. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Yes. Okay, so the first M stands for motivation. What is your motive for taking action? Remember, I said to remember names, it goes from your head to your heart to your hands. If you're not remembering names, action, check the second H, which is your heart, the emotions. I want you to ask yourself when you're meeting somebody brand new, in your mind, for a moment, ask yourself, why do I want to remember this person's name? And it could be to show the person respect. It could be to do some business. It could be to make a new friend. It could be to practice these things I learned from Jim, right? But here's the thing, if you can't come up with one reason, are you going to remember the name? Because reasons reap results. One of my favorite business books is by a friend of mine. He wrote a book called Start with Why, Simon Sinek. Go back to the why. Why do I want to learn this? Motivation is everything. What is your motive for taking action? Now, the O in mom, the M stands for motivation. Once you're motivated, the O is, actually do this. Shake out your right hand. Your right hand. Everyone do this. I'm going to keep on doing this till everyone's doing this. Look at your neighbor, make sure they're doing this. Make a fist. Put it to your chin. Now, come on, where's your chin? The O in mom stands for observation. The O is observation. A lot of people, they blame their retention. They come to me, it's like, Jim, I can't remember names. I can't retain it. They blame their retention. It's not your retention, it's your attention. The art of memory is the art of attention. The art of remembering what we read is the art of attention. The art of sales is the art of attention, right? Because where your attention goes, your energy flows, your emotion, everything goes there. So the O is really listening for the name. A lot of people don't remember names. You know why? Because they're not paying attention. How many of you have had this experience where you're talking to somebody and you know they're not there with you? They're looking over your shoulder, seeing who else is in the room. Or if they're not looking around, they're looking around inside their own mind. You ever know like when somebody's not really with you? They're not like listening, they're waiting for their turn to speak. Or they're thinking about how they're going to respond. Another favorite book, is it okay if I recommend books? I like to get people reading one book a week. The average person reads only like 3 or 4 books a year. But leaders, write this down, leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. When you see pictures of me on Instagram with, Elon Musk and the Oprah and these individuals, we bonded, Bill Gates, we bonded over books. They are incredibly avid readers. Leaders are readers. That's why you need to be able to read, because if somebody has decades of experience and they put it into a book, and you could sit down and read that book in a few days, you could download decades into days. That's the biggest advantage you could have. Because if there's one skill to master in the 21st century for entrepreneurs, for educators, for entertainers, for advocates, it's your ability to learn how to learn. It is the ultimate superpower. Because if there was a genie here that could grant you any one wish, only one wish, you're limited to one wish, what would you wish for? Millions of wishes, right? You would ask for infinite wishes. Now, if I was your learning genie and I could help you learn anything, one subject, one skill, anything better, what would you wish for? What's the equivalent of asking for infinite wishes? Learn how to learn. Because if you could learn how to learn, you could apply that towards what? Everything. You could apply that towards math, marketing, management, Mandarin, martial arts, music. Everything gets easier if you can learn how to learn. It is the #1 skill in the 21st century. If you can learn how to learn, the possibilities and opportunities are endless because the world is changing so fast, so rapid. They say whole industries are disappearing overnight. So people have to rethink and relearn other things. This is the best way of doing it. But the schools, they don't teach you that. Schools, again, they teach you what to learn and what to remember, but not how to learn and how to remember. That's what this session is all about. But the O in MOM stands for observation, which means you have to pay attention and really listen. One of my favorite books, another one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a must-read for entrepreneurs. These are the 7 habits of the most effective people, productive people, effective people. And one of the habits is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Seek first to understand, really listen, and then be understood, right? And that's the goal, is to understand somebody and ask these questions for people and really listen. Actually, write down the word listen or type the word listen. Here's a brain teaser, a little brain fitness right now. Scramble the letters and tell me what word does it spell perfectly. Don't say it out loud yet, just play with it a little bit. What word does it spell perfectly? Say it out loud. Silent. All you have to do is ask yourself, why do I want to remember the person's name, and just be silent. And then you could remember one name. Because here's the thing, you don't remember all names, but you don't forget all names, right? Tell me about the people you tend to remember. People that could be good for your business, people that you're attracted to. There's motivation that's there. So tap into that motivation and really listen. Finally, the last M in improving your memory. You have motivation, observation. The last M are the mechanics. And those are the tools, the tips, the techniques that we teach in our podcast. Now again, raise your hand if you listen to our podcast or watch our YouTube videos. Are they useful? Yes or no? Because we go and we teach you these processes. But the really most success, though, that I realized that coaching so many people for 28 years, 80% of success is this mindset. Because you know what to do, but are you doing what you know? I realized a long time ago that common sense is not common practice. And my goal is to diffuse this lie that you've been told. And this lie is knowledge is power. You've heard this over. How many of you have heard this phrase? Knowledge is power. Is it really power? It only becomes power. It's potential power, but it only becomes power when we what? When we use it, when we apply it. And one of the ways of applying it is to really supercharge your focus. We talked about focus and improving your focus. What helps you to focus is this part of your brain called the reticular activating system. You could abbreviate it RAS. And the RAS is kind of like the algorithm social media uses. Have you ever noticed that every time you like something or you comment, they start showing you more of that thing? Because at any given time, there's a billion things you could be paying attention to, but you can't pay attention to all of that. So primarily, your brain is a deletion device. It's trying to keep information out. What does it let in? It lets in the things you have questions about. So it's kind of like your reticular activating system. It's kind of like Instagram's algorithm. And your questions that you ask are kind of like the shares, comments. And it's going to show you more of what you're looking for. So, for example, years ago, my sister would send me postcards and emails with photographs of a very specific dog. It's like a pug dog. You know what a pug dog is? Like a little smushed up face. And I was like, why? My question was, why is she sending me these photos? And I realized her birthday was coming up. And she was planting seeds, right? Very good marketer. And I realized that there was something funny happened. I started seeing these pug dogs everywhere. I go to the supermarket and I'm checking out and somebody's standing right next to me holding a pug dog. I jog in my neighborhood and my name is Kwik. It really is Kwik. I didn't change it to do what I do. My father's name, my grandfather's name. I had to be a runner back in school. There's a lot of pressure when it says Kwik right on your shirt. But I'm running in my neighborhood and I swear I saw a guy walking 6 pug dogs. And my question for you is this. Did the pug dogs just magically appear all of a sudden? No, they were always there, right? But I was deleting them. The answers are always there, but we're not asking the questions. So when you forget what you read, going to reading, a lot of times you don't have questions, because if you had questions, you'd be reading about a topic, sales, wellness, productivity, leadership, and if you had enough questions, when you're reading, you'd be like, oh, there's a pug dog, there's a pug dog, there's a pug dog. Does that make sense? Write this down. Questions are the answer. Questions are the answer. If you want greater comprehension, ask more questions. In fact, the answers are always there. Even in sales, the best salespeople, when they're tested and researched and studied, aren't the ones doing the most talking. They're the ones asking the questions because the answers are right in front of you. They find out the answers. They seek first to understand, then to be understood. Here's a bonus that nobody asked about, but I'm going to give you a bonus takeaway from this session that could be worth everything to you. Thinking is nothing but the process of asking and answering questions. And if you just ask yourself, is that true? Notice you had to ask a question to see if that's really true, right? So questions are the answer. We have about 60,000 thoughts a day. The problem is 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts you had yesterday, and before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. And you wonder why there's not big change going on, because thoughts become things. Now here's the thing, a lot of our thoughts are questions, and there's one specific question that's unique to you. There's a question that you ask more than any other question. Let's call it your dominant question. And when you discover what that dominant question is, your life goes to another level because it explains why your life is where it is. Let me give you an example. I took a friend through a process, and we found out that her dominant question, the question she asks hundreds of times a day, probably thousands of times a day unconsciously, not even aware of it, is how do I get people to like me? How do I get people to like me? Now, you don't know what she looks like. You don't know her ethnicity. You don't know her job. You don't know where she lives. You don't know her age. But do you know a lot about her? What's her personality or life like if she's obsessed with this question, how do I get people to like me? Just shout it out. She's insecure, low self-esteem, people pleaser, big people pleaser. She doesn't like herself. She doesn't even know who she is because depending on who she's with, she's always changing. She's a sycophant. A sycophant is somebody like a people pleaser. You know, she's always martyring herself. You know, everyone's taking advantage of her all the time because she's always trying to do stuff for everybody else and not take care of herself. Now, you know all this about her, and you know one question she asks herself. My question for you is, what's your dominant question? What's the question you're asking yourself all the time that's activating your RAS so you're finding answers? Some people's their questions are, how come I'm not smart enough? Why am I so stupid? And if you ask yourself this question, why am I so stupid, what are you going to start seeing? All the evidence of why you're not smart, right? Because ask and you shall receive. So find out what your dominant question is. Like many of you know, I had a brain injury, I had learning challenges, you know, I suffered and struggled. I couldn't read as a kid for years. I had bad focus, a horrible memory. But when I was watching people, my question became early on is, how do I make this better? My dominant question, even to this day, is how do I make this better? Because I wanted to fix my broken brain. I wanted to fix everything in my life because everything was not great, right? How do I make this better? And then all of a sudden I see an answer. I see an answer, and I see an answer. So I'm going to encourage you, and how you find it is through things like journaling, things like meditation, things like, you know, getting silent with your own thoughts. Most people never schedule time for themselves where they could just be by themselves and just think and really know yourself. I think actually the formula is really simple. Know yourself and then be yourself. That's ultimate happiness, right? Like discovering who you are, what's most important to you in your life, and what you stand for, like who you are, know yourself, and then having the courage to be yourself. Because ultimately, one of the other 7 habits of highly effective people is begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Meaning the end is like of this life is, you know, when we're taking our last breaths. And I spent a lot of time at senior centers, nursing homes, because I lost, not only did I have my learning challenges at this time, but I lost my grandmother, who is my primary caregiver, to Alzheimer's. So I spent a lot of time, you know, as an adult, spending time with elderly, because number one, there's lots of wisdom there, and I help polish off their memories and lessons and learn myself, but also I hear a lot of regret. And the biggest regret at that time, what do you think the biggest regret is? Is that they didn't live their life. Do you know what I mean? And here's the thing, at the end of our life, none of other people's opinions or our fears of looking bad, none of that will matter. What will matter is how we lived, how we laughed, how we loved, how we learned, right? So begin with the end in mind every single day from that kind of place, all right? And you're like, what does this have to do with speed reading? This has everything to do with the right mindset. Because when you get the mindset right, the mechanics, again, are really easy, all right? Now, here's the goal. To learn everything faster, I want you to remember this. Be fast. I use a lot of acronyms because how many of you would remember it even if you didn't write it down? You remember it because the letters help remind you, right? Be fast. So the B we talked about. The key to learning faster, to get your brain to unleash the power of your brain, is believe that you can, right? Because if you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right. And a lot of people say, well, I'll believe it when I see it, but the most successful people reverse it, and they're like, oh, I'll see it when I believe it, because it starts with a belief. All of life goes like this: be, do, have, share. That's the process of achieving something. But you have to believe you could do it in order to do it. Because write this down. All behavior is belief-driven. All behavior is belief-driven. Let me show you what a belief is. Stand up real quick. Stand up. Stand up. Quick, quick, quick. Make arm-length distance from the person next to you. Go like this. Move out into the aisles. Go like this so you can't touch anybody. Move around, move around. Move around. All right, jump up and down. Shake out your body. Stop. Keep your feet stationary. And what I want you to do is, remember this, as your body moves, your brain grooves. The reason I have you move around is not for me to watch you move around and get pictures and everything else. I have you move around because as your body moves, your brain actually grooves. You create something called brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, which is like fertilizer for creating new brain cells. So if you want to keep your brain alive, move more. Now what I want you to do is with your feet stationary and your arms by your side, empty your hands, arms by your side, I want you to point forward with your right hand. Your other right hand, sir. Right hand, and turn to your right, and notice how far you could point. Notice the exact spot you're pointing at. Go as far as you can go, notice where you're pointing. Take a picture in your mind, come back center, and now put your arms by your side, and I'm gonna walk you through a quick visualization, not in your pockets, but by your side. I want you to imagine, I'm gonna take you through a visualization exercise that I use with athletes, literally the top athletes in the world. I'm gonna show you how to do it. I want you to take a deep breath, exhale, close your eyes, breathe normally, just breathe normally with your arms by your side, and I want you to imagine you're raising your arm again, but this time, imagine you're turning to your right twice as far. Imagine you're turning to your right twice as far as you did the first time, and you're getting a great stretch. It's a fun exercise, like you're made out of rubber. See and feel yourself turning twice as far with your eyes closed, helps you focus. And then with your eyes closed again, I want you to imagine, and some of you are saying, I can't imagine it. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them, all right? So a lot of people say, I have a horrible memory, I'm not smart enough. If you fight for your limits, they're yours. I want you to, if you can't imagine it, imagine you can imagine it. See and feel yourself turning 3 times around in your body, like you're made out of rubber. See and feel in your body turning 3 times around. And then one more time with a smile on your face, thinking, what does this have to do with my memory? See and feel yourself turning 4 times around, getting the best stretch of your life with a big smile on your face. All right, open your eyes. Get ready to blow your own mind. Point forward with your right hand. Turn to your right as far as you can now go. Whoa. All right, clap if you went further the second time. Have a seat, have a seat. So what do we discover here? Your mind, Einstein said imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Knowledge is what is, imagination is what could be. And this is the exercise we're doing inside our minds. We're setting the thermostat in our mind, and then a moment later, we get better results just in our imagination. You notice that? And what if you could, now some of you, raise your hand if you went further the second time. Raise your hand. Almost everybody. Let me ask you a question. Were you physically capable of turning that far the first time? Nobody took a yoga class when my eyes were closed, right? You're physically capable. Where was the limitation, if there was one? In your mind. And you're thinking, Jim, no, I'm skeptical. Jim, I didn't have a belief on how far I could turn. How many beliefs do you think you have? Countless beliefs. You have a belief, a thermostat set in your mind on how far you could turn, and we just upped it a little bit, and all of a sudden, some of you went 25, 50% further. Did you work harder the second time? No, not at all. What if you could go 25, 50% further in your business without putting more effort into it? What if you could go 25, 50% deeper in your health by using the power of your visualization? So we talked about self-talk because that helps program it. But the other thing that programs your mind or reprograms it as something better is this visualization. And this imagination creativity, this strategy we're doing, it's important in business because you know where jobs are going? They're going to artificial intelligence. You know where jobs are going? They're going to machines. They're going to automation. Do you see this in stores and everything where it's replacing people? That's where things are going, technology. But you have the ultimate technology in the world. You were born with it. It's the human brain. And the goal is more people upgrade their phones than they upgrade their minds. Do you feel what I'm saying? And this controls everything. So this is what we did, this exercise. I do this with athletes all the time. What do athletes do just physical training anymore? What else do they do? Mental training, and they do visualization. They visualize themselves hitting that, whether it's a golf ball or it's a soccer ball, they visualize it first, because success is an inside-out process. What did Roger Bannister do in 1954? He broke the 4-minute mile. Throughout human history, nobody could run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And how he did it is exactly what you just did. He would close his eyes and see himself in his imagination crossing the finish line, looking at the clock, and it says 3 minutes, 59 seconds. Because he knows what you know, that entrepreneurs take the invisible and make it visible, that he had to see it first in here before he saw it out here. How many people see that? Now, that was interesting to me when I saw that interview. What was more interesting to me is what I read after that. Nobody could run a mile in less than 4 minutes. One person does it. What happens after that? Right. All these other people start running and breaking a 4-minute mile. Now, was there big advancements in shoe technology or training methodology or nutrition support? No. What was the breakthrough in? In belief. He changed what people believed was possible, and people start doing the impossible. And that's what we could do in this room, right? Because most of us underestimate what we could do because we don't want to be fearful of getting our hopes up again, right? So visualization. So the things that make us human, if jobs are going to machines and automation, artificial intelligence, and they're being outsourced, what makes you valuable? I'll give you 3 things. Creativity. That's not going to go to a machine. Creators, right? Imagination, envisioning something greater, and also strategy, right? You can learn all these things. And so these exercises we just use strategy to improve our creativity and our imagination. So build those muscles and they will pay off, all right? So that's the B in Be Fast. The E stands for exercise. Exercise. And I don't mean physical exercise, although people who are more physically active will do better on mental acuity. They'll have better focus. They'll have a better memory, right? As your body moves, your brain grooves. How many people believe that? It's important to move around. Some of the big innovators, they don't even do sit-down meetings anymore. They do walking meetings because that's when they feel like their mind is open, they have more creative thoughts, so that you move, right? But I don't mean E as an exercise. I mean practice. Because practice makes what? Progress. Practice makes progress. And you need to be able to practice and exercise these tools, right? And the bad news is it takes effort to learn how to read faster. The bad news is it takes effort to learn how to remember names. But here's the good news. It doesn't take as much effort as you think. You know, like I'm very good at remembering names and other things, but after I learned how to do it after a month, I know how to do it. It's just learning how to type, or learning how to drive a car, or learning how to be able to do anything. It's once you have that skill, you could have that skill for the rest of your life, right? So put in the practice. But here's the key, consistency. Write this down. If I am persistent, I could achieve it. If I'm consistent, I get to keep it. Consistency, little by little, a little becomes a lot. Where are areas of your life you could just do a little bit each day? Because consistency compounds into something really greater. If you just improve 1% a day, you know, over the course of a year, it's like you end up in a completely different destination. Some people call it a destiny, right? And so a little by little, a little becomes a lot. Now we're going to the FAST, the F-A-S-T, I'm gonna go through really fast. The F to learning faster is forget. All right? And now you're like, Jim, you're the memory guy. Why are you telling me to forget? I want you to forget, when you want to learn faster, forget about the subject itself, what you know about it. So you can empty your cup so you can put something brand new in. Your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. It's kind of cliche and cheesy, but it's true, right? Keep an open mind. So forget about what you know so you can learn something brand new. A lot of people will come to me and say, Jim, I have 20 years of experience. But when you talk to them, they don't really have 20 years of experience. They have 1 year of experience that they've repeated 20 times. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to innovate, you have to be able to learn new things. So forget about what you know. And also forget about what's going on in your environment. How many of you try to multitask? Do multiple things at once? In actuality, it's a myth. There's no such thing as multitasking. The latest research is saying you cannot do 2 cognitive activities at once. What you're really doing is task switching. You're going from one thing to another. And what it does, it actually takes time, because to regain on a new activity, your focus, your flow, could take anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, right? So you're not actually making progress, you're actually interrupting the progress by trying to do too many things. Just focus on one thing, all right? And that's going back to the A. So F is forget about what's going on in the world, just be present to learn faster, because you can't be doing this and thinking about your clients, all right? The S stands for state. Now we already covered this. State, all learning is state dependent. How many of you have heard me talk about this before? The reason why I repeat this is this. What keeps people from mastery is the feeling or them saying to themselves, I know this already. The people who are the experts, they are the ones that never get bored of the fundamentals. They get excited about the basics, and these are the fundamentals. So state, control your state, right? So control your breathing, your posture, your thoughts that you have in your mind. You know, the questions I ask to turn knowledge into power, really simple, 3 power questions. Number 1, how can I use this? I ask that question so many times a day when I'm learning something. How can I use this? And I write it down. And if you don't know how to take notes, listen to the podcast I did on how to take notes. All right, it'll change your life, the way people take notes. Because there's a learning curve, but there's a forgetting curve. They say that after you listen to something once, after 2 days, 80% of it is gone, right? So that's why taking notes is very important to maintain your retention, all right? So going back to this, the questions I ask, how can I use this? Second question I ask, power to take knowledge and turn into power. Why must I use this? Going back to the heart. Why must I? Who's counting on me to play my A game today, right? Get leverage and motivation over yourself. Third question to ask, to take all knowledge and turn into power. When will I use this? You know what the number 1 productivity performance tool there is? It's our calendar. Most people put in their calendar a doctor's appointment or meetings with clients or an investor or with their boss. but they're not putting in their calendar their personal growth or their personal development. And that's why they never get to it. If it's not in your calendar, it's a dream. It's an interest. So the best thing to do is ask yourself, when will I use this? How can I use this? Why must I use this? When specifically will I use this? All right, so that's going back to the A in be fast. F is forget. The A is being active. Active. And part of being active is taking notes. So definitely listen and watch that episode on how to take notes. But part of being active is asking those 3 questions when you're learning something. And then the S, again, is state. You always want to be, because that's the energy. This is the antenna information is coming on. So you want to be able to have that emotion. And then finally, the last T in be fast is teach. If you want to upgrade your brain, if you want to learn faster, if you want to remember what you read, learn it as if you're going to teach somebody else, because intent matters. Like, I want all of you to think about somebody you wish was sitting next to you, somebody you wish was listening to this conversation right now. You think about that person, and I want you to learn with the intention of teaching that person. If you had to give a talk, let's say a TED Talk or a talk on this stage next week on this subject, would you pay attention better? Would you take notes differently? Intent matters. Write this down. When I teach something, I get to learn it twice. When I teach something, I get to learn it twice. You know, we've covered a lot in this conversation. We talked about your dominant question. We talked about your RAS and seeing pug dogs all the time. What if your dominant question was, how do I grow my business? How do I reach my 10-year goal in 6 months? What if that was your dominant question? And all of a sudden you start getting answer. There's an answer. There's an answer. We talked about the power of questions. We talked about motivation, asking people, asking yourself, why do I want to remember the person's name? Asking, being also observant, sitting down and just asking them their name and listening. And by the way, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how are you going to show people that you care about their business, their future, if you don't care enough just to remember their name, right? So just remember this. We talked about the power of belief. We talked about power of exercise. We talked about forgetting things so you can learn new things, forgetting distractions as there's no multitasking. We talked about also how learning is not a spectator sport, right? The ability to take notes, to overcome the forgetting curve, that all learning is state dependent, and that if you learn to teach, you're going to learn it so much better, because the best teachers are the best students, and vice versa. I want to end with this, that your life is like an egg, that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if an egg is broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things, all great things begin on the inside. And you have greatness inside of you. You have genius inside of you. That's why I create this podcast for free, because I wanted to just make it available to the world. Because what if you listen to the episode on how to focus or how to be creative or the 5 different ways of solving a problem? You listen to that, and all of a sudden you're able to create a business that goes out and affects the lives of millions of people. Change your brain, you change your life. You change your brain, you could change the world, right? I'm here for the next 2 days. I'm so excited because I'm learning so much. I'm sitting there with you because I think, again, the best students, the best teachers are the best students. Always be learning. And I know many of you also ask, because we have a booth right outside. I'll be there after to be able to answer your individual questions. Some people asked about, can I go deeper in this? So we just created this one thing that if you're interested, a lot of you have taken our speed reading or memory programs and want to take things to the next level. This is an online academy that we created for you, entrepreneurs, to be able to learn, remember names, read faster, remember more, do all these things. And just as a special here outside, we're making it available for more than 80% off. As a thank you for being an entrepreneur. I believe that the true entrepreneurs are the modern day superheroes. You're out there creating jobs and solving problems, but it is hard. But the way to make it easier is to upgrade your brain. So if you like to do that, there's a website here. You don't have to come to our booth. You could just go there today. And as a bonus, we're going to give you our reading program and lifetime access as a thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.